a stadium in the county of Homa Bay, and we say from Nairobi, Erokamano Ainya. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning to you.
Happy Madaraka Day.
Then if you say Erokamano Ainya, we will call you Nyathiwa. Nyathiwa means our child, as these gentlemen know. And because today they've gone to Homa Bay.
Yes.
Homa Bay is in Somalia, Hundurta, the umbilical cord of Nyanza. Homa Bay and Kindu Bay, actually, the centers of political activity in Nyanza for nearly 150 years. It is very recently that Bondo and places like that have come into play in Nyanza, and I'm sorry if people of Bondo don't get upset with me. But it is just historically fact that the areas in which the ports were, in which they could get in touch with people from the rest of the world, in fact, people from Yemen, who brought the Islamic faith there. And you know, Nabongo Mumia was also in charge of that whole area. And for that matter, Jaramogi Odinga's father was a bodyguard of Nabongo Mumia. You did not know that, Ayub? I know that.
I know now.
Now you know. I know the history of this country. And it is, I want to thank the people of Nyanza, who have been at the heartbeat of the democratic movement in this country. And I was inside their camp for a very long time, and I'm delighted to see that the celebrations have come to Nyanza, a region in Kenya that has not had its benefits of national development like you and I in northern Kenya. Some of us have been left out, but today we don't have a choice. Okay. Everybody has been given a county. It is his job to fix their place. All right. Not complain anymore.
That's Ahmed Hashi, and also joining us this morning is Provost Evans Omolo. Good morning.
Good morning, Ayub Kadir, and happy Madaraka Day to all Kenyans joining and watching. Great to see the passion of Kenyans, both in Homa Bay and across the country as we set to celebrate Madaraka Day today.
Good to have you as well. We're also joined this morning by lawyer Kidi Mwaga and the convener of the Interparties Youth Forum, actively engaged in convening meetings for Kenya's young population. Good morning, Kidi.
Good morning, Ayub. Thank you so much for having us on this panel.
Asante.
I think this panel qualifies a proper intergenerational dialogue. Yeah. One of the values that Interparties Youth Forum stands for. So we join Kenya, as we join Kenyans in observing this Madaraka Day. Thank you that this panel will be a panel of intergenerational dialogue. Thank you.
Asante sana. Thank you so much. Much appreciated, gentlemen. And later we'll, in the course of this broadcast, be getting hold of our team that is there at the Raila Odinga Stadium in the county of Homa Bay. Stephen Leto, Emmanuel To, Seth Olale, and Laura Otieno there for us. The head of state is set to officiate the ceremony today from the county of Homa Bay. He will be doing the inspection of the guard of honor that will be mounted by the Kenya Defence Forces, the three services of the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army. The President will as well be accompanied by the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga, and will be giving you the official breakdown of the speakers and the relevance this bears and the environment, the vibrancy towards the build-up of this historic day in the county of Homa Bay. Ahmed, quoting what happened some 62 years ago today, and this was according to Duncan Sandys, who was Britain's secretary for the colonies, and steward for the Kenyan transition in 1963. He said, "I trust all will work together and play their part in building a happy and a united nation." Where are we if we are to audit that?
We are very far behind, but we are trying. We are supposed to build a nation out of groups of people who did not have very much in common. Someone from Mandera and someone from Homa Bay knew about each other. They knew about each other because, you know, it is destroying the agency of African people when you start talking about their history from the period that the white man came. So essentially what you're saying is that before that there was nothing. And that is what is called Eurocentrism. It's nearly a racist articulation of what people are. We know, for example, our people traveled up to China. The word for China, for a giraffe in China is in Somali. Up to today, because it was sent in the 15th century as a gift to the Chinese emperor. The Luos and the Bantus and all the other peoples of this country come from the Sudan. They traveled hundreds and hundreds of years ago, all the way down from northern Uganda down to the lake. We know that from the Cameroon and from the Congo forest, we get the Abantu people. And we all came here, and the white men came, and we fought him. We fought him. And everybody in Kenya fought him. The Kalenjin suffered devastating killings in their areas, the Kisis. The Luos were refused to even plant maize for agriculture. It is a colonial system that really brought this country together as Kenyans. And it would have never really become Kenya if every community in this country had not had a hand in the freedom struggle of this country. We know that 300,000 Agikuyu were in concentration camps, that in the city of Nairobi, they would ask you, are you a Kikuyu? And then you would kneel down and go to jail for it. We know the trade movement that was led by people from Western Kenya and the people from Nyanza, who fought bitterly to get Kenya free. My own family was in the Mau Mau. My uncle Mohammed Hassan Jebeli, Allah yarhama. And I'm proud of that. Go ahead.
Yes, Provost.
Yes.
In terms of reflecting on the past 62 years, where we are today, seems also, if we are to juxtapose the embryonic days in the aftermath of 1963, when Mzee Kenyatta became the Prime Minister, and where we are today, we seem to be still confronting the very same challenges. Yeah,
Ayub Kadir and my colleagues, great to have Kidi and Ahmed on the show. And as we did say, I think when you look at the history of this country, and as far as Madaraka Day and Jamhuri Day are concerned, those achievements were premised on the backdrop of a desire of a people wanting to unite and wanting to confront challenges that were affecting them. As has been said, disease, education, poverty, and to ensure that our people become and grow their full potential as God intended for them. I must appreciate that our founding fathers had a great vision for this country. And you can see what the late President Kenyatta did and how he pushed the country until President Moi took over. But you realize that along the way at some point, despite the beautiful vision and the desire to unite the country, the desire to make a difference in the lives of the people, to transform this country, to lift it from the jaws of poverty, you realize that at some point we seem to have lost it. One, in terms of the sense of unity. And we today are talking of a country that is incredibly disintegrated along tribal and ethnic lines. We seem to be seeing a country that is devastated by what I call commercialization of politics. So commercialization of politics has made it that if Ahmed comes from a minority community in this country, there is no chance for you to be anything in this country from an elective perspective. And so that, again, is fed by negative ethnicity. You look at even issues of corruption. You look at institutions, which, in my view, have done well, but yet we still have a long way to go. So in auditing that call for unity and a desire for oneness and for growth, we have hit quite a lot of misses, as much as we've achieved some.
Okay. And Kidi, talking to young voices, convening the Interparties Youth Forum, what's the reflection of the nation state today and the fabric of the Kenyan society?
There is a pervasive feeling amongst the young people that the social contract is in jeopardy. The young people are coming to that conclusion in part because they think that in the last 60 years, the country has made all the wrong turns whenever it has opportunity to make the right turns. And that thinking also stems from the feeling that there is greater short-termism in our political discourse as opposed to a visionary thinking. Today, as we are talking about, as we are sloganeering as a nation, others are talking about one term and others talking about 2 terms. Other jurisdictions are thinking about the devastating effects of AI in addressing the question of the underemployed or the unemployed underclass because of the massive erosion of industries that is going to come with the AI. You look at all the investments we should have made as a country. Look at the last 10 years where we have, presided over massive public spending mismanagement. You go before that, you look at how ethnicity and tribalism have been exploited to divide a people. So these are the challenge. That is the thinking of the young people. And today, a year after the famous Gen Z revolution, we think that there is a place of leadership in awakening national consciousness. And that is what the young people are saying, that we must evolve an alternative vision, but that vision must come from awakening of a national consciousness.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Ahmed, just as Kenyatta struggled, just as Moi did, just as Kibaki Uhuru did, President William Ruto is equally struggling, is he, on the challenges of governing a fragmented country, largely the very same problems underpinning the state.
I'm sorry I choked up on my coffee while I was speaking about my uncle. There's 3 things we need to learn about Kenya that's very important. That the fathers of this country, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Jomo Kenyatta, were split by the Cold War. The conflict between the Soviet Union and the United States came to this country and split the nationalist front of this country. The power of the East and the West was so powerful that it tore apart the binding that was brought together by the nationalist struggle. Jaramogi Odinga refused to be prime minister in this country today. It was Jomo Kenyatta who became prime minister. He was supposed to get the job, and he told the colonial governor that my father and my mentor is in jail. How can I be the prime minister? That is how binded the nationalist front was. Once that was taken away from them, what was left was a conservative agenda of a president who was old, who had about 5 people around him from his sublocation. And the entire country became beholden to a set of, I couldn't call them anything else but a mafioso. But the shining star in that group was Mwai Kibaki. We came to know that the person who is at the center of the history of this country is Mwai Kibaki, because during the independence struggle, he was during the first government, he was the finance minister. Yeah. He went to economic planning, then he became finance minister. Obama's father, who died down here in a road accident, was his deputy. These were brilliant men who took care of the economy and left the politics alone. Now, the core of our issues from then on has been that because the nation was broken, Arundhati Roy has written a book called The Lives That We Have Not Lived, if I remember. Kenya is a nation, the life that we have not lived, because we were taken and put on another trajectory. That came into a crescendo in a civil conflict in 2008. As you know, I was there. And I saw this country nearly go down the drain. Last point. Today, the same conservative group, it's not tribal. They could have come from us. They could have come from here. They could have come from anywhere else. And now again in charge of the country. Now, Mr. Odinga there in Homa Bay has decided to do something called a broad-based government. How long are we going to have a broad-based government in Kenya? Because we've had one since 1960. And
just the interchange of the names, the last one was the handshake. Provost, I'll come to you.
Yeah, the last one was the handshake. Broad-based.
Yeah. Allow me to, who is at the Raila Odinga Stadium in the county of Homa Bay. To you again, Laura, how is the environment given what we had witnessed last night and the expressions on the faces of the residents of Homa Bay in anticipation of today's event?
Well, indeed, as we told you, Ayub, earlier, it is quite a unique state. A lot of residents here by around 9 p.m. yesterday night, and they had filled these terraces. They were full from 10 p.m. yesterday, and it has been quite a nightmare even for security agencies trying to control the crowd. As you can see, a lot of them are surging closer and closer to the barrier, but then they are very ecstatic, all of them waiting for the president. And I have a few here who came as early as or as late.
Kwa majina natoka kule Kagano Ward, maeneo bunge la Rangwe. Nilifika hapo jana mwendo saa 9 alasiri, na tukakita kambi katika ugaa huu wa Raila Odinga, ambapo tulikuja kusudia yale ambayo yatafanyika kulingana hii shughuli nzima ya Madaraka Day ambayo angalia mambo mengi. Tulikuwa hapa na drama na kadhalika, yani full entertainment. Tulikaa hata sikujua tulimaliza saa ngapi. Mimi nimejikuta tu tumefika asubuhi, kwa sababu uwanja huu ulijaa tangu ndio hata zidi kuongezeka, tukiwa tunatarajia Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya hapa.
Sasa mmekula ama mmeshiba tu?
Tulipoingia jana tulipa vyakula. Tangu hiyo jana hadi wakati huu ni raha tu, hata sisikii njaa hata kidogo. Natarajia yale ambayo yatanenwa na rais siku ya leo.
Na shukrani sana. Naona pia kuna kijana hapa. Anza na jina, uniambie wewe ulikuja saa ngapi na umekuwa ukifanya nini?
Kwa majina amesha Koching Wasonga kutoka eneo la Wikoteng, kutoka Sumbi eneo ya Wikoteng. Niliingia hapa jana saa 5 usiku kwa sababu nilijua nikichelewa kufika katika uwanja huu wa Raila Stadium nitakosa nafasi kwa sababu ya umati wa watu. Na pia ningependa kushukuru rais wetu William Samoei Ruto pamoja na gavana wetu wa kaunti ya Homa Bay Gladys Nyasuna Wanga kwa kutuandalia Madaraka Day katika kaunti hii yetu, ili sisi pia wana Homa Bay tusikie furaha ambayo wengine pia wamekuwa wako nayo.
Na tangu ufike hapa jana, watu wanasemaje venye mmekaa huko ndani? Watu walikuwa wanasema pia wanatarajia nini wakati huu?
Asante sana. Vile nilifika huko jana, watu walikuwa wanajiuliza maswali mengi kwa sababu vile tulifika huku uwanja ulikuwa umefungwa na tuliambiwa kuwa uwanja umejaa furifuri, na pia wengi wetu wangekosa nafasi. Kwa hivyo tulitulia kule nje, ambayo baadaye tukakuja kufunguliwa uwanja na tukaingia ili kusubiria Madaraka yanze.
Shukran sana. Ayub, as you can see, there's even a woman I think who has been overwhelmed, you know. She sat here for some time. I don't know, maybe mama, unaweza tuambia ulikuja saa ngapi hapa?
Nilikuja jana kitu saa 10 usiku. Tumelala hapa tukikesha, tukisherehekea Madaraka yetu, na tena tunashukuru mama wetu Gladys Wanga kutuletea wageni hapa Homa Bay, mpaka Raila wetu Raila Odinga na rais wetu. Tumewakaribisha wageni wote Homa Bay. Karibuni, asante.
Na kwa nini ilikuwa muhimu sana kwako kuja hapa?
Lazima nifike tu nijione kwa macho. Umejua ni mara yetu ya kwanza Homa Bay kuona sherehe kama hii kiletwa. Sasa lazima tu tukuje. Tusherekee na wenzetu wa Kenya wote.
Na ulikuja peke yako ama ulikuja na
wengine? Tulikuja watu wengi kutoka Super North. Tumewakaribisha wote wa Kenya wote wakuje Homa Bay. Tumewakaribisha Homa Bay County.
Shukran sana. Ayub, as you can see, you know, it's not just her. There are so many people. It's a multitude, literally here at the terraces. So, of course, we'll be looking, of course, trying to talk to more people to understand why they had to come here that early. But then let's cross over to Seth Olale, who's at the VIP gate. Seth, perhaps who else has joined the dignitaries at this stadium today?
Residents of Homa Bay County, they are basking in glory and basking in the early morning sun rising over Lake Victoria, waiting for the starting of the event, which will be officiated by President William Ruto, who is in Homa Bay County, and they have been here since last night. The authorities struggling to control the flooding into the stadium of the locals in Homa Bay County. We understand from our colleagues there, Laura Otieno, Seth Olale, Stephen Leto, and Emmanuel To, of the number that continues to grow outside the stadium, as all now is in place ahead of the arrival of the president, who will be officiating this. We have so far witnessed the presence of the local leadership, the county woman MP, also known as Bensouda, as well as the Senator Kajwang, and the other leaders who have already arrived there. The three services of the Defense Forces, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force will as well be taking their position in the pitch ahead of the inspection, as the guard of honor, the mount for the Commander-in-Chief, will be part of the ceremony, and will be giving you those live pictures here on the broadcast on this special Madaraka Day celebration, coming to you live from the county of Homa Bay, as well as here in studio with my able panel members made up by Ahmed Hashi, Provost Evans Omolo, and Kidi Mwaga. Provost, coming to you. You have mentioned the hit and the misses, and certainly we are at a very historic turn in this country, given what happened last year, the awakening of the voices of young Kenyans, as Kidi has mentioned, and they see it differently. It's a generation that today sees Kenya different, from different perspective. Is 2027 a granted constitutional right for us to elect our leaders going to be putting this country on the cusp of transformation, given what we have witnessed?
It is very difficult to predict how 2027 will look like and how the power plays will align. But looking at both history and the young people's agitation that we saw last year, I think it's only important to, one, appreciate that as we celebrate 62 years of self-internal rule or independence, as it were, it's also good to appreciate things that are happening right correctly. You had asked Ahmed earlier whether President Ruto is still presiding over a government that is bedeviled by the problems that were there before. It's good to acknowledge some of the progressive things that have happened. I'm very impressed when I see institutions like Kenya Power set themselves on recovery path, and I'm impressed to see Kenya Airways, that was down, getting up and beginning to get to the line of profitability. However, there are lots of struggles that the young people raised that are connected to history. Issues that the president is presiding over today. You remember the Truth and Justice Reconciliation Commission raised quite a lot of issues around historical injustices. And those historical injustices are the reason why the country is as divided as we have seen over the last 10 years or more. Issues of people's land that were grabbed, and they remain grabbed, and they were pushed into IDP camps. We have seen and continue to see what we call an equitable distribution of resources and isolation of certain parts of this country that, quote unquote, don't appear to matter in terms of sharing of the national cake.
Yep.
So when the national cake is left to be a preserve of one, communities who produce president, quote unquote, or communities who have moneyed Mongols who can connect with the presidency, bankroll the campaigns, and then get promise of roads and jobs and ministries and XYZ, then the things that are contained in TJRC report remain to be devastated. And therefore, what President William Ruto is presiding over today is still a country that has not risen up with boldness to address those historical injustices, which include things like massive corruption. And remember, the young people, the Gen Z, raised concerns. You're raising resources through taxation, but then you're only talking to us about how you're going to raise those resources, but you're not inviting us to a conversation of how those resources are going to be distributed or to be spent. And therefore, the spend in this country remains a big problem. We are on the heels of the preparation of a budget. Ayub, 2027 and the politics moving forward will be shaped by how we address the plight of those passionate women and men that you see in the stadium. You know, do you think they are there to see how handsome the president is or what type of suit he's wearing? Do you think they're there to see the type of dress the governor is wearing? They're there to listen and to hear, are you speaking to our issues? Is SHA going to solve my problems? Is the education capitation for schools going to enable me have my children go to school properly? Am I going to get food on the table? That is the concern of those passionate people who have been there since 9 o'clock yesterday. And therefore, we are on the brink of a do or make. If the president were to connect with the people, release resources, address the concerns of the people, and that is what Gen Zs were raising, minister to their needs, because that is indeed what leadership is about.
And the control of budget the day before yesterday was before Parliament, and she mentioned how spending on local and foreign travels have, in the last 9 months alone, gobbled up 10 billion.
Look at that. And you remember the corroboration by World Bank that even our rates alone by per diems of going out, $517 per day. Global standards put it slightly over $200 per day for everyone. Why are we misusing resources as if we are a first-class country or first-class plus country? Mismanagement at the highest level.
Yes, I can just hang on. Kidi, certainly when you speak to these young Kenyan voices, you can tell, don't you, that they understand Kenya is still under construction. But how can they be part of that collective dream to be the engineers of a better Kenya than they found it?
I think that every opportunity that has presented itself for us to come together, the political class have demonstrated that the only role that young people have to play is sloganeering. And that is why I think during last year's budget-making process, when young people, of course enabled by access to information through the internet and other things, decided that they were not going to sit back and watch as the leaders make wrong decisions for the country. Because coming into this, the life of this administration, there was very good rhetorics. The rhetorics were around making tough choices in the interest of the country. A lot of young people construed that to mean that we were going to see a very credible war against corruption. Because look at how corruption is eating at the fabric of this country. Look at access to basic services that the government is unable to entirely deliver on, in part because money that should have been helped in doing this is in the pockets of the privileged few. So then the young people who are looking forward to an administration that was going to ensure that some of the mistakes of the last 10 years were going to be preserves of dustbins of history were shocked to realize that there was no break at all. It was same old, same old. Good rhetorics, quick on the feet with the crowd, but nothing in regards to service delivery. So when young people then started coming together, you realize that very senior members of this administration were very disdainful of those efforts by young people. Some of them described the efforts by young people as iPhone-wielding and KFC eating young people from privileged backgrounds.
It's a lie.
And it was a lie. And as Senior Hashi puts it, because when young people persisted, you realize that the net effect was that the president had to disband the cabinet and a few other changes took place. But that is where the story gets sadder. It gets sadder because when the president acted as though he listened to the young people, he then engaged in a series of activities that was kind of showing these young people the middle finger. It is the same people that he sent away that again he brought back. The young people demanded that we need a lean and efficient government. And instead of this government becoming leaner, we've seen layers and layers of fats being added into this government in the name of advisors, in the name of expanding of departments, among other things. So the young people are sending a simple message to the leadership of this country that please listen to us. Okay. And the president, during the National Prayer Day, said that he apologizes to the young people for any mistakes. But the young people are saying, he said if there are anything that he has done that is not correct. But young people are saying, where is the accountability on those people who have been abducting Kenyans? Yeah. Where is the credible war on corruption? Where is a message of national cohesion? Because even if you hear the message from the president's side, what you hear is a bit of balkanization, which is not very far different from what the other side is saying. Thank you.
Ahmed, before I come to you, allow me to again get hold of Laura Otieno. Laura, you are still in the midst of the crowd there, sandwiched. And what's their view, given the recent TIFA poll, which had documented the unpopularity of the outfit Odinga and the president are heading in the name of the broad-based?
Well, indeed, as you can see, it's quite a flurry of activities that we have here. These are known as the Kochia dancers. They are quite famous here in this region. You know, they always bring a lot of energy to the stage. A lot of them are also quite aged, so maybe I can just also be speaking to some of them. Karibu sana kwa Citizen TV. Niambie unaitwa nani na mnajisikiaje leo?
Charles Salwo Chodenyo. Koro kawuono wane pangso. Madaraka Day.
Niambie na Kiswahili unatarajia nini leo?
Leo sisi iko kwa raha. Kwa sisi kawuono leo utaona Jaluo na tacheza namna gani? Tacheza namna gani? Leo.
Na wewe naona kama uko mzee, lakini naona unajikaza. Unafanya nini ndio unakaa?
Machezo hii nafanya kwa mwele yangu mzuri sana. Kama mimi nalala fresh. Saura mimi nacheza. Mimi nalala mzuri sana.
Na pia unaswagu, umejivaa vizuri mpaka umevaa macho. Nini nafanya unakaa kijana namna hii?
Ndio hiyo machezo iko na maneno ya maneno ya kama mimi nalala, mimi narota korota tu. Maneno ya machezo hii. Si mimi nalala bado kunini. Tena mwele yangu nalala misuri Saura. Mimi nitafanya chochote. Tafanya chochote.
Huyo ni mzee. Basi maybe I can also speak to a younger one. Anza na jina na unaambie, tunaona kama mna dance kwa hizi hafla nyingi. Hivi leo kwa nini hii ni special? Maana hii ni mara ya kwanza tumeona Madaraka Day ikifanyika hapa Homa Bay. Kwa hivyo ni special namna gani kwenu?
Tuna feel vizuri sana. Leo ndio siku yetu ya kwanza kuona tunataka tukutana rais. Hatujawahi ona siku kama hii hapa Homa Bay. Hii leo ndio siku yetu ya kwanza kukutana rais. Tunapongeza rais wetu Dr. Samoei William Ruto kwa sababu ameleta maendeleo hapa kwa Homa Bay. Asante sana.
Ni dance aina gani mmemtengenezea rais leo?
Kama vile umeshaona tuna dance hapa, tukienda hapa kichini tunasangelea rais, tunapatia rais wetu pongezi.
Haya basi tufanyeni ya moja, tufanye rehearsal ya mwisho tukiendelea tukikaribisha rais. Haya basi tuanze. Well, Ayub, as you can see, this is what we are doing here, just warming up before the program officially starts off. We are waiting for the president, of course, to stream in. My colleague Seth Olale is somewhere on the entrance, you know, some of the... But for us, we will be looking at the color here inside the Raila Odinga Stadium. And as you can see, I also want to, like them they said, nilale usiku kama na ngorota. So let me move my bones and I take it back to you in studio.
And the child's people protecting you.
Laura Otieno there, blending also in the cultural dance at the Raila Odinga Stadium in the county of Homa Bay. And as we await the arrival of the head of state at the stadium for the officiation of the Madaraka Day celebration, still we are witnessing the presence of the leaders arriving. This is the Principal Secretary, the Ministry of National Treasury, Kipto, also arriving there alongside the galaxy of other leaders who will be arriving. We have also witnessed the arrival of members of the National Assembly and the Senate who have taken their seats at the podium, and will be keeping an eye on who else will be arriving. Also the presence of members of the Diplomatic Corps and the United Nations who are present at the Homa Bay, at the Raila Odinga Stadium in Homa Bay for this important event in Kenya's calendar. Yes, Ahmed.
I think that I've always believed that the most important thing about the public debate is honesty about the country's issues. And I'm on the record that I believe that Kenya has not reached a crossroads, or it is not in a watershed. What has happened is a transformation that is coming to this country unlike no other. And I argued here, you remember, that the political class is going to play the tribal game so that they could save the political class. There is no other way of saving the political class unless they play this card. And the young people who make up 80% of there's 50 million people and there's 37 million Gen Zs. You could check that. People, you know, the electorate has transformed. And these young people, the ones who are leading the Gen Zs are not the ones in the urban areas. It's a complete subterfuge. There is no division between the rural Gen Zs and the urban Gen Zs, because there is no division in political economy that is rural and urban. The consciousness of change is about the awareness of people's conditions. The upper class kids who were in Westlands and in Mudaiga were in the demonstrations. In fact, they were abducted, some of them. The ones in the rural areas who are leading this Gen Z were in Uasin Gishu. The people who are leading the Gen Zs were in Uasin Gishu, in Kericho, in Kisumu, in these hamlets and towns of this country. It's not only Nairobi. The ones who came to this town came from the outskirts. And this was a spontaneous explosion. It's not Wamunyoro who's giving money to kids to come and demonstrate against the government. It's a peddling lies to the people of this country. And we can see it. Now, I've never believed in these transformations to be violent. I don't believe that this transformation should come to us in a way that is going to destroy the country. Nobody wants that. What we want is an orderly transformation from one stage to another stage in a constitutional way in which we order our management of the state and this society. The reason why Madam Suluhu, President Suluhu of Tanzania is shocked at us is because we in Kenya now believe that these low standards in the region, there's low standards of my cousin there in Kampala called Mr. Museveni, in Tanzania, where the surge of East African consciousness is across the borders. Why should I take a passport to go to Mogadishu when all my Abdullahs are in Mogadishu? What's the reason for me to hold a passport? If I have a Kenyan ID, I should be able to get on a plane, go to Mogadishu and come back here. He should be able to go to Uganda in Alur and land there and come back with his ID. We are an East African nation. We don't want these low standards so that you can have a little despotism here and a little bit of a democracy here. We don't want that. We want transformation so that these young people can get jobs. Ayub, do you know what's the unemployment rate in that stadium? It's nearly 75%. Those people who are coming there are coming to look for hope. What is it that the political leaders have for us? What do we need from them to make changes? And if these people do not make changes to the generation that wants change, they will be changed. And it's not going to happen politely. It's going to happen with a lot of force.
Okay.
Lastly, I'm of the view that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people must not perish from the face of the earth. But for it to stay, we have to end the 2 billion, 3 billion shillings a day corruption. In what country on earth does 25% of the budget go to corruption?
Okay, and Provost, because this day was christened as a turning point in Kenya's history, marking the inception of internal self-governance, and one of the audacious hope that Kenya would chart was this was one of the happiest moments in my life. Kenyatta declared when he was sworn in after Governor McDonald pronounced Madaraka the grand hour in Kenya's history. Certainly we are also in 2025, and it's historic in many ways, is it, even before the elections?
Indeed. When we look at all of this and we see where we're coming to as a nation, especially as far as issues of self-rule is concerned, we cannot keep silent about what the young people have agitated for here. And even as I answer your question, I am personally, first and foremost, intrigued by the fact that we are coming to the anniversary of the Gen Z revolution on the 25th of June. And I hope something will happen around that time to remind us that that momentum must be sustained and must be carried on. But Ayub, for me, if I tweak a little, I am deeply concerned that we are talking about internal self-rule for 62 years, yet we appear to be as worse as we were then. So the rate of unemployment is incredible, just as Ahmed has said here. The rate of even growth of our institutions and economic and societal transformation, we are still way far. And I feel very sad. I feel sad because, not because we are not able, but because we are able, but we have chosen to deploy resources elsewhere. You look at the resources we generate as a country, incredible, incredible. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission publishes on its website the extent of corruption in this country. As an institution, it has failed to curb that. And that, for me, saddens me, because those resources could be deployed to create more and more jobs for younger people who are struggling here. They'll leave this stadium and they'll go and be hungry. The younger people that Kidi represents, and we all represent, they do not have jobs. In the space where I work, every single day I get about 10 people asking me, connect me with this job, I need a job, I need a job. There is no job.
Very sad.
If I were the president, or if I would have the ear of the president, the only thing that I'll tell him is what the Bible says in Mark chapter 10, verse 45, that the Son of Man, who is Jesus, came not to be served, but to serve. So, Mr. President and the leaders, your roles are to serve the people. Isolate resources, release those resources to create employment, to improve the welfare of the people. It is then that if Kenyatta woke up today, then he will smile. If Jaramogi woke up today, if Ngei woke up today, then they'll smile that we bequeathed a country to enable people who've been able to make a difference in the lives of our people. Without which, if that doesn't happen, I want to encourage the younger people and Kenyans at large, let us not sit back until what rightfully and constitutionally belongs to everyone is attained, because the Constitution provides for the right to free and compulsory education. Today, parents are paying down there. The budget estimates that have been developed are not even releasing resources for capitation, let alone paying them on time. There are no capitation. Hospitals are not getting funding.
Exam fees.
Release. You're putting 5 billion shillings to renovate state lodges and state house, yet you cannot pay for examination. In conclusion, my call is leadership to serve the people by improving the welfare of the people.
And Kidi, you have referenced the past decade and the first election largely after the promulgation of Katiba in 2010. How ingredient is Kenya's celebrated constitution in the growth and advancement of our prosperity?
Thank you, Ayub, for that question, because it takes me to the thinking of Amartya Sen, who was a celebrated economist.
Bangladesh.
Who then,
Indian.
yes, who describes development as a removal of obstacles in the expanding of real freedoms that people enjoy. So that in regards to the Constitution of Kenya 2010, that takes us to Article 43 and Article 53. Article 43 envisages that socioeconomic rights would be a reality in our lifetimes. But if you look at how the political class are presiding over the affairs of the state, largely the provisions of Article 43 remains a pipe dream. The provost has mentioned the question about exams. Today, the last week, the PS for education, basic education was before Parliament, and we were told that there is no money for the exams. While the Constitution at Article 53 provides that every child has got a right to access to free and compulsory basic education. So let us look at the place of exams in access to free and this free and compulsory basic education. Many parents, Ayub, are unable to access the 800 shillings that is expected, that is anticipated that will be paid for exams in primary, to the primary exams. Without these exams, these children are unable to matriculate to the next level. In high school, the exam fees is 5,000 per student. Many of the parents who would have to wonder if they have to pay this 5,000 or they have to pay for food and shelter. And so many of the families that are going to be unable to have access to have an opportunity to matriculate. So then the question is, if the exams is important, if the education is important, where is our national priority? Do we invest 5 billion in making the state lodges and state houses look better, or we invest in the future of our people? And then that tells us, gives us a hint to the thinking of the people manning the state. They think that running that education is a recurrent expenditure. What they are forgetting that we are developing human capital. And I think that that we are here on this Madaraka Day should make the political class rethink their priorities.
And Ahmed, isn't it worrying that we are also shipping out the most educated, and this could have this could be consequential on our democracy when you drain out the brain from the society? Then who holds governments to account?
In 2 years, just 2 years, Captain Traoré in Burkina Faso has created one of the biggest cancer centers in Africa. He's transforming that economy in 2 years. It has not been done since the times of Captain Sankara. The Sahel Union is coming together. The amount of money that was being transferred to the French Republic is being slashed on a daily basis, from titanium to iron ore to all kinds of minerals. The French are going to the European bond market to ask for help because the bond investors have seen that the resources where they get their money in West Africa is transforming, and France is not going to be part of the European Union if things go on like this, because they've been exploiting West Africa. We've been exploited by Anglo-American interests in this country. They own 60% of the economy, maybe more. And the vision of trying to transform the economy has been caught up with the very idea of modernity. What do I mean by that? We have coffee. If you go to New York, Manhattan, you buy $5 for a cup of coffee. Or even if you go to a restaurant here in town, it's maybe $3 for a cup of coffee. It's 3 cents what the farmer is getting. The state is just getting its simple taxes. We have to rethink how the economy works. You know, we have an economic advisory team here that has sent Mr. Ruto to the Golgotha. The pastor here will tell you the Golgotha is the cross over there where they put the son of Mary. We believe it was Judas Iscariot, but that's a theoretical issue. The point of the matter is that they misadvised him. And then they brought the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. And these institutions, which have been kicked out of the Sahel Union, they have paid off their money and they kicked them out. And the growth of these countries is now just amazing. And it's just months. It's actually months. So our future lies in East Africa, Ayub, for us to trade among each other, to create manufacturing in this country so that people can get jobs, to neither look west, neither look east, but to look inside ourselves and what we can do. What is such a big deal about creating a factory in Naivasha and employing young people to make jeans? What is the big deal about that? I mean, what is the big deal about going to look for a machine to build a car that is going to be affordable to Kenyans who can drive their taxis and drive a pickup to their house? This, you know, the political culture and the political leadership in this country needs transformation. Otherwise, a popular national liberation is going to come to this country. I am not a radical. I'm just explaining the political economy of this country. Secondly, the injustices is what cause separation. The war in Sudan is about the injustices perpetrated among the Nilotic people in southern Sudan by the northern Sudanese, and they got secessionism. In Somalia, the dictatorship sprayed Hargeisa and killed over 50,000 people. They are here in Nairobi claiming secessionism because of the injustice that happened. In Ogaden, the Ethiopian state continues to oppress the people in that region. They are going to want to secede. The Oromos want to secede. The reason is because the post-colonial state has refused to deal with the issues of the people. And unless the government of the people becomes the government of the people will throw out the government.
All right. Yes, and Provost, some 5 minutes?
Yes.
Yes, please, yeah.
Yes, Ahmed, I think I agree with, Ayub, I agree with Ahmed. In as far as the whole concept of developing the local economy to function is concerned, you asked the question, what's happening with a lot of brain drain of our young, talented people going out and looking for jobs outside there? In the space where I work, I represent so many people, not just in the religious space. I am a community leader as well. And I can tell you, so many of our young graduate doctors are looking for jobs out in Europe and out in America and down in Australia. Because after graduation and after finishing internship, there are no opportunities for them here. A lot of younger people who are coming out of colleges and universities do not have placements. Some of them then resort to start consultancies or businesses. But 62 years down the line, we still do not have sufficient space and resources for those businesses and consultancies to thrive and to grow. What happens then is an incredibly disillusioned younger population. And if somebody thought that the Gen Z wave is dead, or that it will be muzzled by sloganeering, as Mwiga calls it, Mwaga calls it, I will tell you that we are going to see a lot of a rebirth to this, because the desperate younger population who, one, do not have jobs, are unemployed, and number two, have started off businesses that are not being able to run because the government has held their money. So the pending bills has grown to be huge and huge. And one of the saddest things in the current budget's estimates is that the budget does not even envision clearing of the pending bill. So it means that if Kidi, who had a small business at the corner that lent government 5 million shillings, will not be able to get that money to run. So getting into a cycle of my business is not able to operate. So that means we are going to go under, and the economy is getting to depressed more.
Okay. Provost, before you go to Kidi, allow me to also take a look at what's happening at the Raila Odinga Stadium in the county of Homa Bay, where I do understand that my colleague Emmanuel Toh is on standby to give us also what's happening on the side of where he is at the stadium. We'll be getting hold of him shortly here on the broadcast. Kidi, coming to you. Ideally, then, in the reconstruction, what needs to happen here? Because if you look at the Kanu-Kadu divide, the core option, and largely as a result of also the exogenous pressure from the West, the divide between socialism and capitalism, and where we were with multipartism, the many-party systems. But seems in the eyes of many Kenyans, especially the young who you do convene their regular meetings, that this has not been consequential enough?
I think that when you talk about the co-option of KADU and KANU in 63, we must look at it through the prism that it was a political operation that was seeking to secure the interests of the political class. But then around that time, already the nationalist consensus had collapsed. And you see that even in the subsequent years, we have not been able as a country to genuinely come together as a people. The closest we came to coming together as a people were 2 instances, and in both occasions, I think we screwed it up. In 2002, when Kenyans rallied around President Mwai Kibaki, I think that was a watershed moment. But soon after President Kibaki came in, there is a friend of mine who calls John Githongo the lucky JM Karaoke. He calls him the lucky JM Karaoke because JM Karaoke was breaking the conscience of the political class in the 70s when he was saying that we cannot live in a country where we have got 10 millionaires and 10 millionaires and 10 million beggars. Consequently, we found his rotting body in Ngong Forest. John Githongo, as PS in the office of the president, handling matters of integrity.
Yes, let me just pause you. You'll proceed. Allow me to get hold of Leto, give the final word to Provost, and then we release him as we progress.
Sure thing.
And we await the presence of the head of state. Good morning, Stephen, and tell us what's happening where you are at the Raila Odinga Stadium.
It's now a countdown ahead of the official kickoff of this year's Madaraka Day celebrations right here at the Raila Odinga Stadium in Homa Bay County. And of course, there is lots of excitement. We already have a glimpse of the program of how it's looking like in terms of when the president is arriving. Of course, preceded by the arrival of Slovenian President Patasa, of course, and the Deputy President also being there in the program. But of course, as you can look at the Wananchi who had of course stand up for this year's Madaraka Day celebrations, just getting excited, awaiting the presidential motorcade just to come and, because this is actually where part of the president will be using, to just wave at the crowd, and of course we just try to engage one or two. Unasikiaje, mko poa? Ulifika hapa saa ngapi?
Tumefika hapa kitu kama saa 2 hivi. Tumefika saa 2 usiku na tuko na furaha sana. Tumeenjoy hapa Madaraka na tunaomba holiday nyingine irudi hapa tena na tena na tena.
Mzee unahisi vipi? Una furaha sana
Asante sana, tunashukuru sana kwa rais kwa kutuletea hii kipindi ambacho ni cha dhamana sana. Kama sisi watu wa Homa Bay ni mara ya kwanza kupokea hii kitu na tuko na furaha sana. Imetuchangamsha na tumeshukuru rais, na tunaomba aendelee hata siku nyingine atukumbuke kama watu wa Homa Bay. Vijana tuko na furaha na tumesimama na rais mpaka kwa debe 2027.
Na naona mko na stadium sasa nzuri. Je, kama vijana mnahisi vipi? Naona mna stadium mpya sasa.
Tuko na stadium mpya. Tunashukuru sana national government pamoja na county government kuungana na kutupatia stadium mpya. Kwanza ni kitu ya furaha sana, tutakuwa na uwanja mzuri ya kucheza. Asante sana.
Asante. Those are just some of the excitements, of course, from members of the public, of course, awaiting the arrival of President William Ruto, of course, and the Slovenian president, who is one of the guests for this year's Madaraka Day celebrations. Of course, there is a lot of excitement, as you can see, from members of the public just awaiting the arrival of President William Ruto any moment. If we can just have a look at how some of them, are saying they intend to be here. They've been here actually from 8 last night when the doors were open, and now, they say they are eagerly waiting for the message from the head of state. If we can just get one of you. Mzee, unaitwa nani?
Kiswahili.
Unaitwa nani?
Mimi naitwa George Otieno Molo.
George Otieno, nyumbani ni wapi?
Kutoka Kado Primary School.
Hiyo ni constituency gani?
Nilikuja hapa kuona president Mr. William Ruto. Alifanya kazi mkubwa sana. Tumeshukuru tena, tumeasanti.
Wewe unatarajia nini kwa speech ya president leo?
Leo tunataka ni president aungilie hii kiwanja. Alafu watu itembee vizuri.
Tumeona mko na stadium mpya. Je, hisia zenu kama wenyeji wa Homa Bay ni gani?
Mwenyeji
wa Homa Bay. Unasikia aje mko na stadium?
Watu napenda sana. Tena watu najaa kabisa.
Ulifika hapa saa ngapi?
Mimi niliingia kama saa 7 usiku.
Saa 7 usiku? Umekunywa chai, ulikula ama uko
chai yako kunywa kwa sauri watu iko wengi zaidi.
Ukitoka uwezi rudi ndani.
Sawa.
Asante, endelea kutazama. Jina lako na umetoka wapi?
Kwa majina naitwa Dennis Omolo Joseph. Natoka Homa Bay County, Kadel. Karibu na Kindu Bay. Mimi nimefika hapa jana saa 12 nikitarajia kuona mazungumzo yenye rais atatupea. Hadi sasa nimependelea kwa sababu naona tangu hii broad based government ikue maendeleo inafika kwa account kwa usiru kabisa.
Labda tuangalie hao wenye wana bendera. Naona umeshika bendera, hisia zako ni gani leo?
Kwa majina naitwa Kevin Mola kutoka Migori County. Nimeshika bendera kumaanisha mimi ni mzalendo. Mimi ni mwananchi mzalendo. Leo nimekuja, nimerauka saa 7 usiku, nimekuja kushuhudia sherehe ya siku ya leo.
Asante. Those are just some of the members of the public, giving what they are feeling like in terms of what they are expecting President William Ruto to address this year. Of course, just giving their feelings regarding the Madaraka Day celebrations coming to Homa Bay County, this year. Maybe we can also very quickly look at one of them. Tuambie jina lako nani?
Jina naitwa Edwin Mark.
Umetoka wapi?
Nimetoka kijiji cha Rongo.
Rongo. Yeah. Unahisi vipi leo?
Nahisi furaha tele kukuja sherehe kama hii leo. Yeah. So,
unaendelea kuhakikisha kwamba mko salama kabisa?
Naona salama ipo ya kutosha na tunajitahidi kuangalia zile sehemu ambazo zitakuwa na tatizo. Yeah.
Asante.
Mimi naitwa Wayne Wesley.
Umefika kushuhudia Acha tusikie huyu wa Manchester.
Sawa, mimi mwenyewe kwa jina naitwa Benedict Ochieng. Sawa, kwa hapa kijijini hapa Homa Bay, nilishirikiana hapa pamoja, lakini kile nimeona Kenya hajanifurahisha ni moja tu. Hao polisi waliletwa hapa watupe ulinzi, lakini hao sasa ndio wameweka sawa, wanatupiga sasa. Hakuna ulinzi wanatupea hapa hata kidogo. Kufinyana tunafinyana, hatujapewa nafasi ya kutosa.
Asante. Thank you. Of course, that is just the situation right here inside the Raila Odinga Stadium in Homa Bay, where the preparations for the arrival of the President William Ruto into the stadium, we continue to await. Of course, until the president, the visiting head of state, which is the Slovenian president, arrives here, is when the President William Ruto will also leave the Homa Bay State Lodge, where he currently is, to make his way to this point. Of course, there will be, the pomp and color that comes along with Madaraka, the celebrations every year, and we'll be seeing, of course, the flying past, of course, the aeroplanes, of course, the colors, of course, of Madaraka Day celebrations will be all staged here, right inside the Raila Odinga Stadium. Of course, members of parliament from across the constituencies, governors So from this region, we've already seen the host governor Gladys Wanga here. The governor for Siaya, James Orengo, is also in Raila Odinga Stadium. The neighboring governor for Migori County is also here. We've not seen the governor for Kisii yet. Whether the neighboring Kisii County will be coming here, we are yet to see him here, or maybe he also holding his Madaraka Day celebrations in Kisii. And so we continue to await now the arrival of the military, because they have taken their positions to ensure now they march into the center of the stadium, and by then it's when now the official kickoff of these Madaraka Day celebrations, because now the entire midfield will be taken over by the military, awaiting the dignitaries and of course the head of state, who will be of course be inspecting the guard of honor. And so we have our colleagues of course on the other end. I'll just give it back to you as we prepare for the entrance of the military to take up the center stage.
Stephen, good morning and thank you from the Raila Odinga Stadium in Homa Bay County, giving us a breakdown of the event, the schedule, and how the day will pan out. He also sought the views of Kenyans who have been there since last evening, expressing their optimism of the president's speech, saying much need to be fixed, including the living standards and the high cost of living, and also celebrating somewhat the broad-based arrangement between the former Prime Minister and President William Ruto. He also confirmed to us here of the presence of the governors, including Kisumu County's Professor Anyang' Nyong'o and Siaya Senior Counsel James Orengo, and the host governor Gladys Wanga, as well as Migori County's Achilo Ayako. There you can see the emblem showcasing the Kenyan flag done in the sitting arrangement on the terraces at the Raila Odinga Stadium in Homa Bay County, who will be waving the flag when the president will be doing the lap of honor before inspecting the guard of honor that's mounted by the Kenya Defense Forces, which is the traditional military culture with the commander-in-chief of the defense forces. And we'll be bringing you those live pictures here on the broadcast. Yes, Provost.
Yes.
Kid, you'll finish up. We need to.
I yield the floor to the Provost.
Let me sign off as I go to join in the morning mass.
Yes.
Fellow Kenyans, as we celebrate this day, for me, I will sign off by saying two things in particular. One, that celebrating self-rule, internal rule, 60 years down the line, should then see us mature in our democracy, a democracy that should propel our politics to be around issues. And my expectation of those in government is that moving forward from now onwards to 2027, that let us focus on issues that are affecting Kenyans and how we want to solve those issues, and not politics of othering others and pushing others away. Because Madaraka was about bringing Kenyans together. What broad-based has done is what Government of National Unity under President Kibaki did, and what BBI envisioned. But you realize that whether it's BBI, whether it's broad-based, that we are not broad enough. Because in the attempt to be broad, we end up othering others and then profiling them and excluding them. But sadly for me, using unpalatable language that is unbecoming. Instead, we should articulate issues. How do we want to build industries? How do we want to grow science? How do we want to invest in research? Today in China, they are talking about research in medicine, research in engineering, research in technology, research in computers. But here, unfortunately, we are talking about half-term, one-term, two-term, full-term. When are we having time to think about issues and solutions to our problems? So that is number one. And I want to encourage the president and those in leadership really to take a step back and have this country at heart and manufacture solutions to our problems. But secondly, is to recognize that 62 years down the line, we still are operating like a country that is not democratic. We are a giant in the region, and we are a potential democracy giant in Africa. But to see somebody like Rose Njeri, who was arrested for genuinely raising concerns that I raise about the finance bill, raising resources and how to spend them, is being arbitrarily arrested and detained without any reason, without bail, which is her right under the Constitution. Ayub is incredibly unfortunate for me, not just because she's a woman, but because she's a face of what many Kenyans are yearning for. Okay. Personally, I would do exactly the same. All Saints Cathedral, we hosted a conversation around the budget and finance bill. Then they should have arrested me as well. Why are you picking out on Jerry? Allow Kenyans to have conversations on how the resources they give government will be sent. We want to call on the Inspector General of Police to, with immediate effect, release Jerry so that Kenyans can enjoy their freedoms. If she has committed an offense, let her be charged in a proper way, the law be followed, and she be allowed bail and appearances in court as provided in the law. Otherwise, I wish my good friends Hashi and Kidi, a wonderful conversation with Kenyans. Okay. You've enjoyed the celebrations. We'll be catching up with you after the chat.
Asante, and we'll see you here on the broadcast on Tuesday.
We will be talking about the budget on Tuesday.
Asante sana.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Monica.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. So Ahmed, to you and Kidi, as we see of the man of God, to go and attend to the service of God as well, and after attending to the service of the nation. Yes, Kidi, previously you had a point.
Yes, I was speaking about the opportunities we've had as a country to come together genuinely and forge forward. Because I think that if we are able to deal with the problem of ethnicity, particularly exploitation of tribal and ethnic identities for political sake, then we would be in a position to think long-term. And I was saying that John Githongo is the lucky JM karaoke. Because when John Githongo is appointed as PS for Ethics and Governance in 2003, his work was to deal with corruption, because remember, NAC government had come to office on the platform of zero tolerance to corruption. His first order of business as PS was to take stock of how the government had been run in the previous 24 years and who had been responsible in pilferage of public resources. So then he engaged a British firm called Kroll. And there was a Kroll report of 2003, which fingered the key individuals who had established a corrupt network in the state within the previous 20 years. When that report was presented to the President Kibaki, he failed to act on it. And failure to act on it, the following year, there was the Anglo-leasing. While speaking to Michelle Arong in her book, It's Our Turn to Eat, she says that...
Okay, Kidi, again, I cut you. Allow us now to get hold of Seth Olale, who is at the Raila Odinga Stadium. Seth, what have you been able to observe at the entrance of the VVIP?
Show the country and the world what blue economy entails, really. Okay. Very well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so those are cabinet secretaries that have just been dropped right outside the stadium. There's a beehive of activity behind this perimeter wall of the Raila Odinga Stadium. We have a huge crowd that has just been barred from accessing this particular area because it's now getting busy. We are expecting very senior state officials. We just saw the cabinet secretaries walk in a convoy. So next is the Prime Cabinet Secretary, and of course now the Deputy President, followed by the chief guest, who is the President and the head of state, who is President William Ruto. So a moment ago was just Asha telling you all about what will happen. So as soon as the President arrives at this particular venue, he will be received by the Chief of Defense Forces, and of course he will be now led to this particular military vehicle. The official, the CNC, is the Command-in-Chief of Forces, will be ushered here by the CDF, the CDF, who's also the head of the KDF, will usher in the President in this particular vehicle, and apart from they will come received here. But even as we stand here at the VIP arrival section, more and more delegation is arriving. Right now we can see the Parliament of Kenya, of course, the National Assembly. And let us just start with the majority leader. And, you know, Juliet, it is a special occasion. I know, it is the government, both the majority and the minority. But let's just go to Kimani Ichung'wah. You know, how important is this? You are in a green tie as well.
Thank you. This is a great day celebrating the courage and determination of Kenyans who are ahead of us to give us a free country. And we are elated to be here. You can see Homa Bay is very energetic today, and so is the country.
What does this tell in terms of, you know, there's a lot of calls for unity, the broad-based agenda. Is this really a testing moment, and what a reception? Crowds here were here as early as 9:30 p.m. yesterday.
I think if you look at the passion here, it tells you that Kenyans are very eager to be united. Kenyans have no divisions amongst themselves. It is indeed us political leaders who divide Kenyans. Kenyans desire to live together in unity.
What is the key highlight to expect from the president's speech today?
I am waiting to hear.
Leader of Majority National Assembly, but we also have the minority, Junet Mohammed and Emmanuel To. You had a question for the minority leader, National Assembly.
Before the minority leader, majority leader, this 2-term, 1-term, where are you?
One more term, 2-term.
2-term, low term.
One more term, 2-term.
Mheshimiwa minority leader.
Yes.
2-term, 1-term.
No, I am one Kenya. There are three groups here. There is no term, 1-term, quarter term. There are people who serve quarter term. You know them. They are making noise outside there. I am one Kenya. I want Kenyans to be united. I want Kenyans to be one. And the unity of Kenya has been manifested very well in these celebrations. You can see the way people are happy. And the idea of rotating these national functions was the best idea that has ever come up, because it gives ownership in all fronts. It gives ownership to all Kenyans. And you can see Kenyans are tired of division. Kenyans are tired of ethnicity. Kenyans are tired of being confined into their ethnic cocoons. Kenyans want to be together and to be one country.
Okay, and we're talking about the broad-based government here. Have you gotten the fair share of that? Because I've seen so much development in this region, especially after this event was brought here.
No, every part of this country must be developed. We are not in that group of people who came here to ask for their share. We want every Kenyan to get his or her share. All Kenyans are taxpayers. So we want every part of our country developed. If Homa Bay gets development, other parts of the country also must get development. That is the vision and mission of the broad-based government. It's not to discriminate against any part of the country.
And there are some who are in your camp who are opposed to this broad-based government. They've even come out very strongly to say we don't support it. What do you have to say about the Sifuna and the likes?
You know, when Prophet Muhammad was advancing Muslim and Islam, people joined slowly. So don't worry, the conversion will happen slowly. It's a matter of time. People will be converted when they see the difference. Yeah.
That's our majority leader, minority leader. Thank you so much. So this VIP area is going to be busy from now onwards. And we are here with Seth Olale to give you that update. And of course, that region, the sirens you are hearing right now, those are the vehicles. Especially, we've seen the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Speaker of the Senate come in. But right now, we are seeing some more members of Parliament. There's Senator for Uasin Gishu, Jackson Mandago. We also have the majority leader in the Senate, Aaron Cheriot, and Beatrice Elachi, the MP for Dagoretti North. And we just want to say a quick word with them because the president is just around the corner. Maybe we could start with the majority leader. We are live on Citizen TV, majority leader. Just a word. Leo tunatarajia nini mheshimiwa Rakaraka?
Good things for the people of this republic and for Homa Bay people.
Yeah, people are saying this government will be at one-term government. What do you say?
Those are idlers who have not traveled the vastness of this country to appreciate the work that has been done. People in the villages appreciate the work that has been done. Let them come and say it here, not online. Tell them to come and try and say it outside here. Yeah.
Just spoken to the majority leader in the other house, and he says that this thing will be a two-term thing. What do you support him?
It's not about me or majority leader Kimani Ichung'wah. It's about the people. I've told you, go outside here, go across the country. Those are noisemakers on online and social platforms. Idlers who don't know what they are doing with life.
Okay, let me talk to MP for Dagoretti North, Beatrice Alachi, all the way from Nairobi. Why come all this way for this?
Because number one, Wanga is my friend, a sister. Yeah, and I've come to see the fruits, and I want to thank her. Because after being a speaker of Nairobi, I knew if any governor would want to see change in their counties, partner with national government, even us in Nairobi. For us to see the slight change we saw last time, it was partnering with government. And so it's important to partner because there are resources you will need and maybe you don't have in the counties.
Okay. Yeah, on Wednesday you talked passionately, you prayed passionately about the situation in the country, and you are a target of the Gen Zs. You're saying they are misusing social media.
Well, I was not a target of the Gen Zs. The European Union...
Or you are targeting them?
Listen, the European Union has sent a report to us saying the issues they've raised of human rights, one being child prostitution in Kenya, the other being pornography, the other being gambling. So, you see, for us, we signed a treaty in our constitution accepting that any international law that comes will follow. And so I don't think that is what the Gen Z do. I believe they use their online the right way. Unless anyone who is complaining is part of a molester of a child, maybe. Because the things I'm saying is in the Children's Act. It's not even on social media. And anyway, there are many other bills. I don't think why we should complain when we want to try to rectify and ensure our underage children we protect.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. Let me talk to Senator for Uasin Gishu. Mheshimiwa, habari ya leo?
Mzuri sana.
How is Eldoret?
Eldoret iko sawa kabisa.
What do you expect from this event?
First, this event, I expected to expound on the blue economy theme. You know, for a very long time as a country, we have not used the waters of Lake Victoria to generate good economic activity. But the focus that government is now putting on blue economy is what is going to draw more business and create more employment opportunities for all the counties that surround Lake Victoria.
Okay. And you believe this thing will be achieved by the broad-based government?
Absolutely.
Of course, we will go back to Emmanuel to tell us all the details about the arrival, the color and everything. But here inside the stadium, it's a frenzy of activity. And earlier on, Ayuba, I had missed your question. You had asked about the mood regarding the Tifa poll. It is a stark difference here at the Raila Odinga Stadium. Everybody is excited to be receiving the president. We've seen some people saying they were here as early as 9 p.m. yesterday. They practically slept on the terraces, all of them waiting to see the president. Earlier, it is the first time that Homa Bay County is hosting the Madaraka Day celebrations, so it is some sort of lifetime event for a lot of people, and we are seeing, you know, the young, the old, the middle-aged all coming together basically to partake in this day. And here I am with another resident. Anza na jina mama, utuambie leo ni siku ya kwanza Homa Bay kuwahi kusherehekea Madaraka. Unasikia vipi kukua hapa kwa stadium?
Okay, kwa majina naitwa Milka Omondi. Mimi ni gospel artist, nimekuja hapa kwa sababu ya hii Madaraka na tunafurahi sana. Kama mimi mwenyewe ninafurahia sana sana sana. I'm very very happy. Yeah.
Mnatarajia nini? Maanake wanasema mgeni akikuja mwenyeji anapona. Tumeona mmepata development nyingi zinaendelea hapa. Unaona maisha yenu yatabadilika aje?
Hakika kwa sasa hivi maisha yetu yashaanza kubadilika tayari na bado tunatarajia mengi na mengi. Yeah.
Shukran sana. It's a whole stadium. There's a lot of excitement going on, a lot of color. Like you saw earlier, there were the dancers, the traditional dancers with the feathers. There were people also who are contemporary artists. There are local wananchis, you know, people who have come from as far as Suba, and Suba is very far, I can tell you from here, all having braved, you know, the night cold to stay in this place. And I'm here with another resident. Anza na jina, utuambie leo mnatarajia nini? Tunaona mmefika hapa leo, mmeng'ara, mmejikwachua vizuri, mna expect nini leo?
Kwa majina naitwa Molly Atieno Gunda kutoka Ndhiwa sub-county. I'm a teacher by profession. Today we are very excited. Indeed, this is our first time and we are very privileged. We thank the president and the county government of Homa Bay for this marvelous event that they have put before us.
We expect a lot, and the crowd is equally excited. And as Homa Bay, we've really benefited. We now have good roads. Our hotels are booming with clients. Our business are top-notch. So all in all, we are grateful. Madaraka hoi!
Huko Mviwa tuliona President pia alienda huko alifungua barabara. Kuna miwa nyingi sana, if I'm not wrong. It's a sugar growing zone, and we've seen a lot of commitment from the government driving the sugar mills. So what more do you expect the president to address today? In as much as there's a lot of development that's going on, what more do you expect from the president?
As a resident of Diwa, we are very happy. A major road was opened by the president, that is Magina to Oria Bridge Road. That is a very important road in business-wise. And as you know, Diwa is a sugar belt area. That will help in transportation of the sugar or even of the raw materials from the farms to the factories. Indeed, we are very privileged.
Yeah, thank you so much. Ayub, as you can hear, you know, it's like I mentioned, it's a whole crowd. Everybody is excited. Pengine umetaka kuzungumza sana. Niambie unaitwa nani? Unatarajia nini? Nimeona umefurahi sana kuliko kila mtu hapa.
Asante sana. Kwa majina naitwa Benson Ayaga, natoka katika gatuzi ndogo ya Rangwe ambapo kuna Dr. Lilian Gogo. Sisi tunatarajia mengi. Haswa unaona ile yao Kosiga. Tuliona president akienda kule na atatengeneza miradi ya maji. Ni maji ndio shida yetu kuu, kwa sababu pale hatufanyi ukulima, lakini maji, tunahitaji maji kwa sababu maji ina manufaa mingi katika maisha yetu kama wanadamu.
Shukran sana. Ayub, as you heard, the president actually was in Rangwe. I think it was, there was a dam that he was commissioning its construction. So, of course, we will be looking at what the event will be like. Like I mentioned, a lot of color. We will be showing our viewers what the mood is like. There's a lot of euphoria, a lot of excitement. Homa Bay residents, leo wameng'ang'ana wakazungumza Kiswahili. So, I think the president should take note of that and see, even if they can get a library, you know, it would be helpful to the residents of Homa Bay. So back to you in studio, Ayub. We will be letting you know if there's any update from this side, Ayub.
Raila Odinga Stadium in Homa Bay County, and now, as you can see, it's all clear. The indications are that members of the defense forces will be lining up as they await the inspection of the president, who is their commander-in-chief.
Just to point out, if I can interrupt.
Asanteni, kwa heshima tunaweza kuketi tafadhali.
All set at the Raila Odinga Stadium. There you go, members of the defense forces, the trade services of the Air Force, the Navy, and the Army taking their position. This is an indication of them awaiting the inspection of the guard of honor that they have mounted by the commander-in-chief, the president, who will be at this stadium. And that is all happening at the moment at the Raila Odinga Stadium. And the clear lines between the Air Force, the Navy, and the Army in their classical race. And now we're making sure that all is ready. There is the host governor, Gladys Wanga, also arriving at the stadium. And earlier on, we had witnessed the presence of the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Masika Wetangula, and the House leadership from across the bicameral parliament, Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, Kericho County, and the leader of the majority party, as well as his counterpart from the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah. In his company was Junet Mohammed, the leader of the minority party. That's Governor Gladys Wanga taking up the staircase to the VIP center that will be where the leaders will be sitting, headed by the president. And once he arrives, then the tradition will be that he will embark on a lap of honor across the stadium to appreciate Kenyans who have turned up for this important event today to mark internal self-rule more than 62 years. Here is the arrival of, taking a look at who will be alighting off this vehicle, presumably the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, and we will be getting to know whether it's him or not once he gets off the vehicle that is now taking him just some steps away from the staircase that also leads to the area where the dignitaries will be seated, among them the president and members of the diplomatic corps and senior government officials. Kenyans have been trooping into the stadium since last night, and here we go. It is, as confirmed, the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who as well is the Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary. A lot on his plate given the events in the region from Sudan to Somalia to Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Kenya's diplomatic and military forays in the region as a stabilizing factor given his recent visits to the United States, the Caribbean, and also Latin America. The three services of the Defense Forces, as earlier mentioned, have also taken their position, and they are waiting for the Commander-in-Chief to do the inspection of the Guard of Honor that they have mounted at the Raila Odinga Stadium on this historic day in Kenya's calendar, which has been a tradition since 1963. And the president, upon disembarking from the Land Cruiser fashioned by his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta for the lap of honor, then there will be the national anthem of the Republic of Kenya, the East African anthem, and thereafter then the inspection that will happen. Yes, Ahmed.
Well, this is one of the things that we are proud of. This is one of the things that we are happy with, that our country is still kicking and fighting and talking and changing. And we have not gone down the drain. We, one of the most important things about the citizens of this country is that we share love for this country. And we are particularly proud of our armed forces. The most disciplined, non-political military organization in Africa. The roots of our military and their discipline is just astonishing. And I want to wish the Kenya Army, Kenya Defense Forces, a wonderful Madaraka Day as they troop the colors of this republic, as they stand at attention as our Commander-in-Chief comes into the stadium. The military has always been the most important stabilizing force in this country. And one of the things that Kenyans ought to be proud of is that this country will stand upright. It may change, it may have noise, it may have conflict, it may have all these kinds of problems. But at the end of the day, Kenyans know that we don't have any other country, and this is the only country we have. And it can only live by its creed of being a democratic system, in which citizens can openly talk about the issues of this country. And in that way, we live the dreams of our revolutionary leaders from the Land and Freedom Party, which stood up for this country, fought the British colonial system, and the rest of the people of this country who stood with those fighters. We ejected the colonial system here by force. This country was bombed by jet fighters in the Aberdare Mountains. This country had concentration camps. My own family was incarcerated. Mr. Mohammed Hassan Jabili, as I was talking about, was sentenced to death with the Kapenguria 6. My own grandfather, Haji Ali Haji Hashi, couldn't sleep in his house because he had put up a surety for all his property to get Mr. Mohammed Hassan. So there is a lot of heroes in this country that are not talked about. I want to remember the Chief Ogle of Wajir, Chief Khalif, who put an end to the civil war between the people of northern Kenya, northeastern, and the state of Kenya, and the Wajir Accords that was signed, the Arusha Accords that was signed by the Prime Minister of Somalia, the late Mohammed Haji Ibrahim Egal. I want to remember Koitalel Arab Samoei, who was murdered in Rift Valley for his stand on freedom. Okay. I want to remember Pio Gama Pinto, who fought for this country. Makan Singh, who fought for this country. Acheng Aneko. There are men and women who suffered for us to troop the colors there today. And Kenyans should celebrate their country. Okay. We hope that in the next celebration that we will have more openness in this country. We'll have more democratic systems in this country. God save the Republic.
Okay. Yes, Kid, earlier on you had a point and then you can still proceed.
I was speaking about John Githongo and how he attempted to wage the war against corruption and how he was frustrated by the people who had employed him and asked him to do just that. So then that opportunity was lost in 2003, we lost it in 2005, and that took us to 2007. In 2010, we had another golden opportunity to genuinely come together as a country. But the tragedy that the politics of 2011, 2012 around the ICC stopped us from that. Now that we are here, and the president has finally, Ayub, it was on this show where yours truly advocated that the president and the former prime minister, after the 2022 general elections, should have engaged in quite direct diplomacy in the interest of the country. Eventually, they did just that, but the question is today, at what cost? But now that we are here, last week the TIFA report, polls survey indicated that more than half the country disapprove of the broad-based government. That disapproval stems from the fact that still so many people do not feel that they are asking the question, what is in it for them, and they're not seeing what is in it for them. As the president and the prime minister are in Western Kenya, there have been conversation around opening up of the economy of the Western Kenya. Let us invest.
This is the arrival of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Kidi, you will proceed shortly in the company of his wife Ida Odinga, and also in his company the leadership of the ODM party. He has been with President William Ruto in Homa Bay County yesterday, and the series of the meetings held by the president. And here is the arrival of the Deputy President, Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki, and waiting for him to disembark from the vehicle. The Prime Minister handshaking members of the dignitaries standing, including the Homa Bay Town MP Peter Pondo Kaloma. And here comes out the Deputy President, Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki.
Pamoja na Captain Jen na Sirian Lenguris watakaoweza kutuletea tamasha za ndege, pamoja na Captain Boniface Otori kutuletea wanamiavuli wetu. Basi kupata kusubiri kuwasili kwake mgeni wetu rasmi, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu wa Majeshi ya Ulinzi, nitampisha mwenzangu aweze kuendelea na itifaki.
Asante mwenzangu, nitangaze tena kuwasili kwake Naibu Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, Profesa Abraham Kithure Kindiki. Wapi makofi ya naibu rais, akiandamana pamoja na Daktari Joyce Kithure. Karibuni sana kwenye uga wetu wa Raila Odinga Stadium.
Basi pata kusubiri kuwasili kwake mgeni wetu rasmi muda wote tokea sasa. Nitapisha Maroon Commandos watupe burudani. Maroon, tafadhali.
Ujenzi wa taifa, kwani nilichokiidia sakisababisha choja. Ewe ndugu yangu, amka kumekucha, kama tajembe na panga, twende shamba. Hata wewe mwanangu, amka kumekucha, kwani hizi ndizo za kwenda shule. Hata wewe karani, amka kumekucha, kwani hizi ndizo za kwenda kazi. Vipo ya adui mkubwa wa ujenzi wa taifa, kwani nilichokiidia sakisababisha choja. Ewe ndugu yangu, amka kumekucha, kama tajembe na panga, twende shamba.
Asante sana Maroon Commandos. Shikilia Maroon Commandos tuweze kufanya itifaki.
Asanteni sana. It is now my singular honor to welcome the President of Slovenia,